I was once known as the Vatican's chief exorcist, a title that I carried with a heavy heart and unwavering faith. Over my lifetime, I performed over 90,000 exorcisms, each one a battle against the most malevolent forces imaginable. Now, as I approach the end of my days, I feel compelled to share my experiences, not for fame or recognition, but as a warning and a testament to the power of evil that exists in our world. This is not a tale for the faint of heart, but a glimpse into the darkness that I faced and the unyielding faith that guided me through. It all began when I was a young priest, fresh out of seminary and filled with the fervor of my faith. I had been assigned to a small parish in a rural Italian village. The locals were devout, their lives intertwined with the rituals and traditions of the church. It was a peaceful community, or so it seemed. One night, I was awakened by frantic knocking at the rectory door. A villager, wide-eyed and trembling, begged me to come quickly. His daughter, Maria, had been acting strangely, and the family was convinced that something unholy had taken hold of her. Skeptical but willing to help, I followed him to their home. Maria, a once sweet and pious girl, was now a terrifying sight. She thrashed violently on her bed. Her eyes rolled back, uttering guttural sounds that no human should be able to produce. The air in the room was thick with a malevolent presence. I tried to calm her, reciting prayers and sprinkling holy water, but it only seemed to provoke the entity within her. It was my first encounter with the supernatural, and it left me shaken to my core. Shaken but resolute, I reported the incident to my superiors. They recognized the signs and sent me to the Vatican for specialized training. The training was grueling, both physically and spiritually. We were a small group, chosen for our strong faith and mental fortitude. Our instructors were veteran exorcists, men who had stared into the abyss and returned to tell the tale. We learned ancient rites and prayers, studied the hierarchy of demons, and were trained to recognize the signs of possession. The most challenging part was the psychological preparation. We had to confront our deepest fears and doubts, for the demons would exploit any weakness. The Vatican's archives held centuries of knowledge on the demonic, and we were expected to absorb it all. The training was secretive, held in hidden chambers deep within the Vatican. We were cut off from the outside world, our days filled with lectures, prayer, and practice exorcisms. It was a trial by fire, designed to forge us into warriors of faith, ready to battle the forces of darkness. As my training progressed, I began to see the world differently. I realized that the demonic presence was more pervasive than I had ever imagined. It lurked in the shadows, preying on the weak and vulnerable, sowing chaos and despair. The cases we studied were horrifying, tales of possession that defied belief. Each story was a testament to the power and cunning of the demonic forces we were up against. I learned to detect the subtle signs of demonic influence, the telltale shifts in behavior, the unexplained illnesses, the eerie disturbances. It was a revelation, opening my eyes to a world of unseen battles being fought every day. The veil between our world and the demonic was thinner than I had ever realized, and it was our duty to stand as the last line of defense. In those early days, my faith was my shield. It gave me the strength to face the horrors I would encounter and the resolve to fight for the souls of those afflicted. Little did I know that this path would lead me into some of the darkest and most terrifying corners of human existence. But I was ready, or so I believed, to confront the evil that lay in wait. My first solo exorcism was one I will never forget. I had just completed my training at the Vatican and returned to my parish. It wasn't long before I was called to a nearby village where a young girl named Isabella was reportedly possessed. Her parents were beside themselves with fear, their once joyous home now a place of terror and dread. When I arrived, Isabella was confined to her bed, her body writhing as if in agony. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were now dark and hollow. She spoke in a voice that was not her own, spewing blasphemies and threats that chilled me to the bone. The room was filled with an oppressive darkness, and the temperature seemed to drop as I approached her. I began the exorcism, reciting the prayers I had memorized and sprinkling holy water on her. Isabella reacted violently, her body convulsing as the entity within her fought back. At one point, she levitated off the bed, an unnatural force holding her aloft as she screamed in a guttural voice. Objects in the room began to move on their own, and the lights flickered ominously. For hours, I battled the demon, calling upon every ounce of my faith and training. Finally, with one last cry, the entity was expelled, and Isabella collapsed, exhausted but free. The room felt lighter, and the oppressive darkness lifted. Her parents wept with relief, thanking me profusely, but I felt no joy, only a deep, unsettling fear. I had witnessed firsthand the power of true evil, and it left a mark on my soul. After that exorcism, I was haunted by doubts. The horrors I had witnessed shook my faith to its core. How could a loving God allow such evil to exist? Each exorcism I performed brought new terrors, new challenges that tested my resolve. I began to question whether I was strong enough, whether my faith was sufficient to withstand the darkness. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake, replaying the exorcisms in my mind, hearing the voices of the possessed, seeing the terror in their eyes. I prayed for strength, for understanding, but the doubts lingered. Every time I faced a possessed person, I felt a deep, gnawing fear. What if one day, my faith failed me? What if the demons were too powerful? Yet, in those darkest moments, I found a strange sense of purpose. The more I struggled, the more I realized that my doubts were part of the battle. Faith wasn't the absence of fear or doubt. It was the strength to confront them. I clung to that belief, finding solace in the knowledge that I was not alone. God was with me, even in the darkest of times. It was during this period of doubt that I met Father Dominic. He was an older priest, his face lined with the marks of a lifetime spent battling evil. We met at a conference on exorcism at the Vatican, and he took an immediate interest in my struggles. There was something in his eyes, a depth of understanding that only comes from experiencing true horror. Father Dominic became my mentor, guiding me through my crises of faith with wisdom and compassion. He shared his own experiences, tales of exorcisms that made my own seem trivial by comparison. He spoke of a time when he had faced a demon so powerful that it took 3 days and the combined efforts of 5 exorcists to banish it. His stories were terrifying, but they also gave me hope. Here was a man who had faced the worst evils imaginable and had emerged with his faith intact. He taught me that doubt was not a sign of weakness, but a part of the journey. Faith was a battle, and like any battle, it required strength, resilience, and a willingness to face the darkness head-on. With Father Dominic's guidance, I began to find my footing again. The doubts never fully disappeared, but I learned to live with them, to draw strength from my faith despite them. I continued my work as an exorcist, each case a new battle, each victory a testament to the power of faith and the human spirit. The darkness was ever present, but so was the light. The case that would come to be known as my darkest hour began with a phone call. The voice on the other end was frantic, a mother desperate for help. Her daughter, Anna, had been exhibiting signs of possession for weeks. Doctors and psychologists were baffled, unable to explain the violent outbursts, the strange voices, the unnerving knowledge of events she couldn't possibly know. I arrived at their home to find Anna restrained in her bedroom, her eyes burning with an unnatural fire. The air was thick with a sense of malevolence, the kind that clings to your skin and seeps into your bones. As soon as I stepped into the room, she fixed her gaze on me and began to laugh, a sound so devoid of humanity that it sent chills down my spine. Anna's possession was unlike anything I had encountered. The entity inside her was powerful, cunning, and utterly malevolent. It taunted me, revealing secrets from my past, twisting my own doubts and fears against me. The exorcism began, and from the start, it was clear this would be a battle unlike any other. The days that followed were a blur of prayers, chants, and relentless confrontation. Anna's condition deteriorated as the demon resisted every attempt to drive it out. She would thrash and scream, her body contorting in ways that defied logic. Objects flew across the room, and the very walls seemed to vibrate with an unholy energy. I was joined by 2 other priests, veterans in the fight against the demonic, but even their combined efforts seemed futile. The demon within Anna was relentless, its power overwhelming. At times, it seemed as if we were making progress, only for the entity to come back stronger, mocking our efforts. The toll on Anna was immense. Her physical form was deteriorating, and I feared we were running out of time. Each session left me drained, both physically and spiritually. My faith was tested in ways I had never imagined, and I found myself questioning whether we could truly save her. One night, as we were nearing the point of exhaustion, Anna's mother came to me, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Father," she begged, "save my daughter." Her plea reignited a spark of determination within me. I couldn't let this demon win. I couldn't let Anna and her family be torn apart by this evil. In a final, desperate attempt, we intensified our efforts. We fasted, prayed continuously, and used every weapon in our spiritual arsenal. The battle reached its climax in a violent confrontation that shook the very foundations of the house. As dawn broke, with a last, blood-curdling scream, the demon was expelled, leaving Anna unconscious but free. The victory was bittersweet. Anna was saved, but the ordeal had left deep scars on all of us. She would never be the same, her innocence shattered by the horrors she had endured. Her family, too, was forever changed, their faith tested in the crucible of pure evil. As for me, the experience left a mark that would never fully heal. I had faced one of the darkest forces imaginable and emerged victorious, but the cost was high. My body was weakened, my spirit battered. The sleepless nights continued, haunted by the memories of Anna's possession and the entity's mocking laughter. I confided in Father Dominic, seeking his counsel. He reminded me that the battle against evil is never without sacrifice. "You did what was necessary," he said. "You saved a soul, and that is worth any price." His words provided some comfort, but the doubts lingered. The aftermath of Anna's exorcism was a period of deep reflection for me. I had confronted the darkness and emerged victorious, but I was acutely aware of my own limitations. The battle had shown me the true extent of the evil we face and the strength required to combat it. It was a humbling, terrifying realization. In the end, the experience reinforced my commitment to my calling. The darkness is always there, lurking at the edges of our world, waiting for a moment of weakness. It is our duty, our sacred responsibility, to stand against it, no matter the cost. The fight against evil is a lifelong battle, one that demands unwavering faith and unyielding courage. And though the scars remain, they serve as a reminder of the victories won and the souls saved. It had been several months since the exorcism of Anna, and the memory of that ordeal was still fresh in my mind. I was exhausted, both physically and spiritually, but the battle against evil never ceased. It was during this period of recovery that I received a call from the Vatican. They needed my expertise for a case that was unlike any other. When I arrived at the Vatican, I was briefed on the situation. A series of possessions had been occurring in rapid succession within a small town in Italy. The victims were unrelated, yet the possessions bore striking similarities. The demonic entities seemed to know intimate details about the lives of their hosts, exploiting their fears and weaknesses with terrifying precision. As I delved deeper into the case, I discovered a chilling connection. Each of the possessed individuals had, at some point in their lives, come into contact with a particular artifact, a seemingly innocuous relic that had been passed down through generations. The artifact, it turned out, was not as innocent as it appeared. It had a dark history, linked to ancient rituals and demonic pacts. The more I learned about the artifact, the more I realized we were dealing with something far more sinister than a simple possession. The artifact was a conduit, a gateway that allowed demonic entities to cross into our world. The rituals performed with it were designed to summon and bind these entities, granting them power and control over the living. I sought guidance from the Vatican's extensive archives and consulted with other exorcists. It was during this research that I stumbled upon references to a forbidden ritual, a counter-ritual that could potentially sever the bond between the artifact and the demonic entities. However, the ritual was dangerous and had been banned for centuries due to its unpredictable and often deadly outcomes. Despite the risks, I knew we had no choice. The possessions were escalating, and the town was descending into chaos. With the support of my superiors, I gathered the necessary materials and prepared to perform the forbidden ritual. It was a decision that weighed heavily on my conscience, but I was resolute in my determination to end the terror. The ritual required precision and absolute faith. Any misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences. As I began the incantations, the air grew thick with a palpable sense of malevolence. The artifact seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, its power growing as I recited the ancient words. I could feel the presence of the demonic entities, their anger and desperation as they fought to maintain their hold. The ritual reached its climax, and with a final, forceful invocation, the connection was severed. The artifact shattered, releasing a burst of dark energy that knocked me to the ground. The demonic presence dissipated, and for a moment, there was silence. The oppressive weight that had hung in the air lifted, and I knew we had succeeded. But the victory came at a great cost. The backlash from the ritual left me severely weakened, my body racked with pain. I spent weeks recovering, my mind haunted by the faces of those who had suffered. The forbidden ritual had taken its toll, not just on me, but on the entire community. The town was left to pick up the pieces, the scars of the possessions and the ritual etched into their collective memory. As I lay in my bed, recovering, I reflected on the events that had transpired. The battle against the demonic was never straightforward, never without sacrifice. I had confronted a darkness that sought to consume our world, and though I had emerged victorious, I was acutely aware of the fragility of our existence. Father Dominic visited me during my convalescence, offering words of comfort and wisdom. "Evil is relentless," he said. "It will always find a way to test our faith, but it is our duty to stand firm, to fight with every ounce of our strength. You have done well, my friend. You have shown that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, light can prevail." His words gave me strength. The battle was far from over, and I knew that there would be more challenges to come. But I was ready. My faith, though tested, remained unbroken. The unholy alliance had been dismantled, and I had learned a valuable lesson about the depths of evil and the power of unwavering resolve. It had been years since I first embarked on the path of an exorcist, and each case had left its mark on my soul. My experiences had made me a seasoned veteran in the eyes of the Vatican. Despite the toll it had taken on me, I remained steadfast in my mission. One evening, as I was preparing for my nightly prayers, I received an urgent call from the Vatican. They needed me for what would be my final and most challenging exorcism. The details were sparse, but the urgency in the voice of the cardinal who called me was unmistakable. A powerful and ancient demon had taken hold of a prominent figure within the church, a man known for his piety and devotion. The demon's presence threatened not only his soul, but also the very foundations of the church itself. This was a battle that required every ounce of my faith and strength. I traveled to the Vatican with a heavy heart, knowing that this exorcism would be unlike any other. As I entered the grand, ancient halls, I felt a sense of foreboding. The air was thick with anticipation and fear. The possessed man, Father Matteo, had been confined to a heavily fortified room, his condition worsening by the hour. The Vatican's most experienced exorcists had attempted to expel the demon, but their efforts had been in vain. It was now up to me to confront this ancient evil. As I stepped into the room, I was struck by the sight of Father Matteo. His once noble features were contorted with rage and pain, his eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The demon within him recognized me immediately, sneering and mocking me with a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of hell. "You think you can defeat me, priest? I am older than your God." Ignoring its taunts, I began the exorcism, reciting the ancient prayers with unwavering determination. The demon fought back with a ferocity I had never encountered before. The room seemed to warp and shift, shadows dancing on the walls, whispering threats and curses. Father Matteo's body convulsed violently, and his voice alternated between pleading for mercy and spewing blasphemies. Hours passed, each moment a brutal test of my faith and endurance. The demon revealed intimate details of my past, my fears, and my doubts, trying to break my resolve. But I stood firm, my faith a shield against its relentless assault. I could feel the presence of God with me, guiding my words, giving me strength. In a final, desperate effort, I invoked the name of Christ with all the power and conviction I could muster. The demon let out a piercing scream, the sound reverberating through the very walls of the Vatican. Father Matteo's body arched impossibly, and with a blinding flash of light, the demon was expelled. The room fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifting as the first light of dawn filtered through the windows. Father Matteo lay motionless, his body spent from the ordeal. But he was free. The demon was gone, banished back to the abyss from whence it came. As I looked upon him, I felt a profound sense of relief and exhaustion. The battle had been won, but the cost had been great. My body was weakened, my spirit stretched to its limits. In the days that followed, I spent much time in reflection and prayer. The exorcism had been a test of my faith, a confrontation with the deepest evils I could imagine. But it had also reaffirmed my belief in the power of good, in the strength of unwavering faith. The church was safe once more, and Father Matteo began his slow road to recovery, his soul scarred but saved. Father Dominic visited me during this time, his presence a comforting reminder of the camaraderie and support that had sustained me throughout my journey. "You have done well, my friend," he said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You have faced the greatest of evils and emerged victorious. Your faith has proven unshakable." As I prepared to return to my parish, I knew that my time as an exorcist was drawing to a close. The battles I had fought, the souls I had saved, and the evils I had faced had taken their toll. But I was at peace, knowing that I had fulfilled my duty to the best of my ability. The final exorcism had been the ultimate test, a crucible that had tempered my faith and resilience. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, my spirit fortified by the knowledge that light could indeed prevail over darkness. The journey had been long and arduous, but I had found my place in the eternal struggle between good and evil. The final exorcism left me physically and spiritually drained, but it also brought a sense of closure. I felt that my purpose as an exorcist had been fulfilled, and I began to contemplate my remaining days with a sense of peace. It was during this period of reflection that I had an experience that would forever change my understanding of the afterlife and the nature of good and evil. One night, as I slept, I had a vivid and profound dream. I found myself in a vast, ethereal landscape, bathed in a soft, otherworldly light. There was a tranquility to this place, a sense of timelessness and peace that I had never encountered before. I realized that I was experiencing a near-death vision, a glimpse beyond the veil of mortality. As I wandered through this realm, I encountered souls who had passed on, their forms radiant and serene. They greeted me warmly, their presence filled with love and understanding. Among them were those I had helped through my exorcisms, their souls now free from the torment they had endured in life. They thanked me for my efforts, their gratitude a balm to my weary spirit. In this place, I also encountered darker shadows, remnants of the demonic entities I had battled. They were bound and diminished, their power neutralized by the overwhelming presence of divine light. It was a stark reminder of the eternal struggle between good and evil, and the ultimate triumph of light over darkness. When I awoke, the vision remained with me, clear and undeniable. It was a revelation that reinforced my faith and gave me a deeper understanding of the battles I had fought. I realized that my work as an exorcist was part of a larger, cosmic struggle, one that extended beyond our earthly existence. The souls I had saved were part of that eternal battle, their redemption a testament to the power of faith and love. With this newfound clarity, I decided to document my experiences. I wrote extensively about the exorcisms, the demonic entities, and the profound lessons I had learned. I wanted to leave behind a legacy, a record of my journey for future exorcists and those who sought to understand the nature of evil. It was my hope that my writings would provide guidance and inspiration, a beacon of light in the darkness. As I wrote, I reflected on the people I had encountered, the possessed, their families, and my fellow exorcists. Each story was a thread in the tapestry of my life, each battle a step in my journey. I realized that my legacy was not just the battles I had fought, but the lives I had touched, the souls I had helped guide towards the light. As I neared the end of my memoirs, I felt compelled to include a warning. The battle against evil is unending, and those who choose to fight it must be prepared for the toll it will take. Faith is a powerful weapon, but it must be nurtured and protected. Doubts and fears are natural, but they must not be allowed to undermine the strength of one's spirit. I urged future exorcists to remember that they are not alone. They are part of a larger community, supported by the prayers and faith of those who came before them. The fight against darkness requires unwavering resolve, but it also requires compassion, understanding, and a deep connection to the divine. As I penned my final words, I felt a sense of completion. My journey as an exorcist had been fraught with challenges and horrors, but it had also been a profound testament to the power of faith and the resilience of the human spirit. I had faced the darkness and emerged with a deeper understanding of the light. The revelation I experienced in my vision gave me peace, knowing that the souls I had saved were now in a place of eternal light. It reaffirmed my belief that even in the darkest moments, there is hope and redemption. The battle against evil is never ending, but it is a battle worth fighting. If you like this